Hi guys, and welcome back to Canada Top to Bottom and the next in our series on getting settled in Canada. Today we're focusing on education, specifically getting your kids into schools and getting the most out of educating your kids in Canada. We'll talk about what schooling is like in Canada, how the education system works, and what you need to do to get your kids started on their journey through Canadian schools. We'll also give you some suggestions on what you as parents can do to maximise your involvement and input into your kids' schooling.
The first thing to note is that Canada has one of the best state-provided education systems anywhere in the world. The literacy rate here is 99%, the highest of any country on earth, and Canada spends more on education per child than any other G7 nation. It all makes Canada's schools pretty appealing places to educate your kids, which is just as well because it is a legal requirement to enrol your kids in school and for them to attend, and as a parent it's your job to make sure this happens. One thing which makes giving advice on Canadian schools slightly tricky is that education is run entirely by the country's provinces and territories. There is no Ministry or Department of Education at federal level. That said, the system works similarly in every province or territory, so the advice and information we're going to give you today will be applicable everywhere. We've included the links to all 13 provincial and territorial school boards in the description box below.
So, here are the basics on the education system in Canada. The exact details will vary slightly depending on where you live, but virtually all education is done with boys and girls in the same classroom and in either English or in French. Naturally, schools in primarily English-speaking provinces like BC and Alberta are mainly English, and Quebec schools are mainly French-speaking. But in most places in Canada, you can choose to educate your kids in both languages. Here in BC, about a third of elementary schools offer French immersion, whereby your English-speaking kids are immersed in French during the first 5 or 6 years of their education, and they learn the language without really realising what they're doing. French immersion isn't available in every school, and it's a popular option. So if you want to get a slot for your child in French immersion, figure out which schools offer it, apply as early as possible, and ask around locally to see if anyone has any advice on how to get one of these coveted spots. Regardless of whether or not you want to do French immersion, registering as early as possible gives you the best chance of getting your child into the school you want. Most towns in Canada will have multiple schools, and you'll have the chance during the registration process to specify your preferences.
Kids in Canada go to school from either 4 or 5 and are legally obliged to attend until age 18 or 16 depending on the province. At the end of each grade, children get a report card showing their progress, and they need to show that they've learned the curriculum before moving on to the next grade. Now, the exact details of this will vary with location, and some provinces have elementary, middle and secondary schools, others have just elementary and secondary. Regardless, the school year runs roughly from the end of August until the end of June, and kids go to school Monday to Friday most weeks. Schools provide textbooks and learning materials, but as parents you'll need to provide pens, notebooks and other personal items. Finally, each school is different, but some require school uniforms and most have some sort of basic dress code.
To get started in the Canadian education system, you'll need to enrol your child with the local school board. School boards are sometimes referred to as school districts, school divisions, or district education councils, but regardless of how they are named, they oversee the registration and distribution of kids across the schools in their area. School boards are made up of a group of elected trustees, and boards hold regular public meetings where you can go and express your views on the local education system. When you first arrive in Canada and want to enrol your kids in school, the local school or school board will assess their education level, decide what grade they need to enter, and determine whether they're going to need additional support, such as English or French language classes.
In terms of documents required to register your kids in Canadian schools, you'll need their birth certificate, proof of guardianship or custody, which in most cases will basically be identification which shows that you are their parent, proof of residency in Canada, which can be either permanent or temporary residency, and finally vaccination records which show that your child's immunisations and vaccinations are up to date. As with everything we've covered in this series about getting started in Canada, getting all this paperwork up to date and prepared ahead of time will save you a lot of stress. By the way, there's a link in the description box below to the details of what vaccinations kids need before enrolling in a Canadian school.
So, having covered the rules and regulations, let's have a quick look at extracurricular activities and give you some ideas on how to get the most out of the Canadian education system. Most Canadian schools offer a wide range of extracurricular activities such as sports, arts or hobby clubs, and, with there currently being so much immigration to Canada, most also offer some programs to help welcome newcomers to the school. Most schools also offer field trips to museums, cultural sites, workplaces and different city neighbourhoods. As a parent, one of the best things you can do is encourage your kids to get involved in lots of different activities, both to further their development and to help you become part of the local community. Our eldest child is not even 5 yet, and we've already done soccer, swimming, kids yoga sessions, and we've also got to know the local bike park pretty well.
Canadian schools seem to also be more culturally aware and socially conscious than schools elsewhere, and most schools designate days in the calendar to raise awareness of society or community issues. For example, each year on September 30th, many schools encourage students to wear orange shirts to raise awareness of Canada's history with residential schools. The campaign draws attention to the impact these schools had on Indigenous children and how they continue to affect Indigenous communities.
As a parent, there are some great ways that you can get involved with your kids' education, whether that's by encouraging them to participate in out-of-classroom activities, discussing social or cultural issues with them, or volunteering your time to help out on a field trip or at a sports club. Being supportive of your kids as they navigate their education is key. Canadian schools have a lot to offer if you're willing to put a bit of effort in yourself.
So that's all for today. Stay tuned for more in this series on getting started in Canada, and hit subscribe before you go if you like the sound of high quality Canada related videos every Wednesday and Sunday. See you next time.